Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me for this video today. I'm super excited. I'm here with Santa over in Birmingham, England. This is take 3 on that. I keep stumbling the words on that one. But I'm so excited to have her here because she has had such an incredible journey with her health. She lived with severe chronic fatigue syndrome, or CFS, and POTS, and chronic pain, and plus a whole host of other really terrifying symptoms. And at her worst, she couldn't move, she couldn't speak, and now she is recovered. And one of the things that she found that helped her the most with her recovery was working with health coaches. So now that she's recovered, she's also helping other people on their recovery journey from similar conditions. And through all of this work, she's discovered, like most of us have, that there isn't really, unfortunately, yet a one-size-fits-all approach to recovery. So she's got some great insights on, what recovery can look like in different instances. So very excited, Santa, to have you here today. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And, as I said before we started this interview, I'm just so excited to be here. And this is something that I've been dreaming about at first when I was severely sick. I was watching your videos for years, and then it became more like my hope. And then I was thinking, okay, I hope that I'll recover, and then I will definitely recover. And now, yes, I am recovered and I am in your videos. And I'm just so happy to be here, to be sharing my story. It's just amazing. And I hope that I can share this hope, the message of hope of recovery, that anybody can do it. If I could do it, you can do it as well. And that's the main message that I want to spread, basically.
Oh, that just gave me goosebumps. I'm so happy that you're here. So yeah, why don't you take us back? How did this all start for you?
Yeah, so before I got unwell, I just thought I had a pretty normal life. I had, let's say, a good enough family. I went to a good enough school. Then I went to a good enough university. It was just a normal standard life. And then I met my husband, who isn't good enough. He's wonderful. He's very wonderful. And then I went through it was 3 pregnancies during which I had hyperemesis gravidarum. And that's a severe form of morning sickness. And it's not actually just morning sickness. It's basically, extreme nausea and vomiting all day, every day, 24/7. And with my last child, it lasted for the whole remainder, the 9 months of the pregnancy. And for many months during each pregnancy, I was just bedridden, couldn't eat anything, I could only just sip water. Sometimes I was hospitalized, and that was very tough on me. But that was really just the end of my story. And, after my 3rd child was born, about 6 months after that, I started developing very weird symptoms and tiredness that I'd never felt before in my life. I'm sure that many viewers and yourself can relate to this. It's something very different from simple normal tiredness, where it just feels like your legs are made out of lead. You cannot move. You just sitting down and you want to do something, but you just don't have it in you to do it. And that felt very weird. And then I started to have heart palpitations. It was hard for me to just be on my legs for a few minutes. My legs would start turning blue, and that would just sort of like come on and off. And again, to me, it felt like all my symptoms just started out of nowhere. It was sudden. And like many listening probably, I got a virus and I never recovered. And so, of course, I started researching, trying to understand what exactly is happening with me. And I blamed the virus for the way I felt, because I didn't have anything prior to that could set it off. Yeah, so to me, it seemed like it was a sudden onset of all these weird and very scary symptoms. And I didn't know about things like CFS, really. But as I started researching more, I realized that probably this is something that I have. And I was terrified because everybody was saying, this is basically for life and it's only going to get worse and people don't recover from this. And I was getting more and more severe. And within about a month, just literally became fully bedridden. I became slowly, symptoms started creeping up. So it was one after another. And at first I had some hope because I was reading about people, getting light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, fully, they couldn't talk and move. And I was like, well, at least I can still go down and lie on the sofa. I can be around people for a while and then I need to rest, but I can still look at light. And I was like, maybe it's just going to pass. But things were just getting worse and worse. And then they added one on top of another. Finally, I reached the point where I had light sensitivity, noise sensitivity. I couldn't tolerate any movement around me, any touch. It was painful. Couldn't hug anyone. So even hugging, my little baby was painful when he, just lied on me. And that just broke my heart, because I couldn't even spend much time with him or my other two children. And it was very, very tough. But again, as I'm saying, it seemed to me at the time that it was just a sudden, very weird, unexplainable thing. But then as I started learning about nervous system, and that took me, a good year or longer to learn all this, I realized that actually it wasn't all that sudden, and it wasn't the virus that really set it off. It was a whole lifetime of continuous chronic stress. And the last few things that happened to me, which is virus or, difficult pregnancies, obviously they didn't set it off. They were just the last thing that really broke the camel's back, in a sense. Once I started learning about how chronic illnesses can develop, how trauma can impact all of us, and what is a dysregulated nervous system, that's when I realized, okay, now I can trace it back all the way to really my childhood. And from there on, I can see this happened, this, and this was very hard, very traumatic, but I didn't at the time, even as an adult, realize that these things have been traumatic and they really impacted me and my nervous system and my health. And so this is how it then evolved, and my body just said no more. I couldn't go on like this, and it just stopped. It put me in that complete freeze state where I would stay in this safe container because I couldn't go on anymore like this.
What was that like as a parent? Because lots of parents who watch these videos, they don't get to see a lot of other parents in the recovery stories, so it can start to feel like with kids, recovery is impossible. And it's hard to relate to the people as well a little bit because they don't have that same experience. I think being a parent is something only other parents can really understand. So what was that like for you as a parent facing such severe illness?
I would say this, to me personally, was the biggest difficulty that I had because, mentally, emotionally, you're not just struggling for yourself, for my spouse as well. He's been going through this hardship, but also we have children, and they, of course, especially at their young age, need me and their dad the most. And my youngest one was only about 6 months old when I started having all these symptoms, and it was just, can't even explain just how sad it was. And it was, even just adding to my illness and making me feel even worse, because that was another level of stress that I had to think about every day of my life when I couldn't see my children. I couldn't speak with them. They couldn't understand what was going on. But I would say that it's very important to remember that we need to have some support around us. And I wouldn't be able to do this really if my husband wasn't around me. I would need to get someone to help me with my children because I was severely ill. I couldn't look after myself even, let alone them. So I completely understand, anybody who's watching this, and especially if they're a parent, that you might think, this is impossible really. But if you have even just a friend or a relative or somebody in your life who can help you, and if you do know the right tools and you set aside some time and you are consistent with it and you persist, then I believe, definitely it is possible even as a parent to recover. But you do need to put in that extra effort that people who might not have children do not need to put in, because it's just, you have these extra responsibilities. It's just a fact of life. And that's why on my page as well, on Instagram, I try to share this message that if you are a parent and you see recovery stories of people who, might live alone or they don't have children or whatever, it's just a fact of life that they have more time. They have more freedom to be able to put some tools into practice, to have a calm, healing environment. And so just naturally, you shouldn't beat yourself up about it, and you should be encouraged that yes, recovery is possible. I have healed, many other moms and dads, they have healed, but
Mhm.
it will most likely take you longer, and it will be in some ways harder for you to heal, but it's possible. So it's sort of like a two-sided coin where don't beat yourself up, but also remember there is hope, and it's very natural to feel nervous, to feel scared, because it is a hard journey. But yes, just be encouraged that it's possible.
So when you started to learn about the nervous system and started getting some insight from the trauma in your past, what did that look like in terms of using that information to start to recover?
Well, I sort of like the first time I started understanding about trauma and how it can impact our health, like many people, I had a lot of resistance, and I didn't want to really look into that because, looking into your traumas and healing from them is always a hard thing to do. And it's probably one of the hardest things to do on your healing journey from such chronic conditions. But yeah, so I was hesitant at first, and I didn't want to look into that. But the more I looked into my childhood, my relationship with my family, the way I was as a child, and all these things, and the more I understood what exactly trauma is, I realized, and the first thing that actually helped me the most was learning how to have healthy boundaries. And I feel personally that this one big piece of puzzle is actually missing from many people's recovery stories, and it's something that can potentially keep them stuck because they don't address it. And I see in myself and in many people I talk to, and in other many different people that I have healed with on during different courses, programs that I have done, I can see that not many people address this part, and it's just such a huge significant part of healing that I would say it was around 40% of my healing, just that, addressing what is healthy boundaries, how to apply them to your life, how to change your patterns of character in regards to that. That was one big thing. And then on top of that, then I started building.
Before we move on, sorry to cut you off. Can you give us an example, if you don't mind, of one of the healthy boundaries that you had to put in place that helped you with this?
You need to look into your immediate relationships, especially with your extended family, the people who have raised you, because with them you will have a certain dynamic where you used to be a child and now you're no longer a child, now you're an adult. And it's very hard for both that party, whether it's your parents or somebody else who raised you, and for yourself to no longer be in that dynamic where you are the child, but you're a grown up as well, and you have your own life, and you need to separate yourself as a unit, as an individual from that extended family. And so I would just encourage you to look into the level of relationship that you have with them. Are you comfortable with how they talk to you, with how they treat you, with what they ask of you? Do you feel that they might be sort of breaching your boundaries in some ways where they might still hold on to you being their child, or your their nephew, niece, whoever it is, your granddaughter, grandson? And separation from your family of origin in a healthy manner, where you are seen, you are treated as, and you can act as an adult that you are now, and no longer a child. This is very important, and this will be the biggest and the first boundary that you would need to address. And then after that, you can of course look into your relationships, with your spouse, with your children, with your friends, and see if you have any struggles there as well. I hope this helps in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. As I was saying, before we were recording, I think a lot of us struggle to even understand what it looks like to put boundaries in place. So I think that's really helpful. And it's something that I don't talk about enough, because boundaries was a big part of my recovery too. I had to just really make myself a priority and look at my relationships and so forth. So yeah, I think that's really helpful. Mm-hmm. Okay. So boundaries was a big part of your recovery. What came from there or after that?
After boundaries, I started to look into traumas finally, because it's very interconnected, boundaries with your family of origin. And then I did various courses, different webinars, and looked at different tools. But I think everybody needs to find what will help them in particular to heal from their traumas, because it's all very individual and every trauma is unique, and the way you react to it, the way your body, your mind responds to it is unique. So I looked into that as well. And just after that, it was a build. I was just building on that. I looked into the whole mind and body connection. I understood about brain retraining and somatic work and how these two elements have to be present there really for you to start recovering. And, it was a big learning curve, because at first, like with many of us who got into this mess in the first place, we're very perfectionistic. We would like to achieve things, and it was hard not to be even rigid with the tools and knowledge that I've learned. And I tried to push myself in the way that I was healing. And that's very unhelpful. That rigidity, it shouldn't be there at all. But also on the other hand, you have to be consistent with these tools, especially things like brain retraining, because it takes some time and it can take a long time for you to form new neural pathways. So yeah, there are these, again, two sides, and there needs to be this balance in between the two where you're not rigid, but you're also consistent.
So you mentioned brain retraining. Did you take a specific program, or what did that look like?
I think the first one, I'm not sure if because I can't remember, it was years ago, but probably the first one that I did was DNRS. And then after that, I took a few more, like much smaller sort of like courses, and I can't really remember all of their names. And then the last one I did, which was about, I think 2 years ago, I took it almost. Yeah, the last one I took was CFS school. So they all approached brain training in different ways, and I had to figure out for myself what suited me, because again, I've met people for whom DNRS was really helpful. For some people it wasn't. For some, CFS school was helpful, so for some it wasn't. Other different things, because we all have such different characters, different unique perspectives, different circumstances, and that's why not one thing can work just for exactly every person who has CFS or any other chronic condition. And because we come from different places as well, as to why we get these conditions. So surely, again, if you're watching, you shouldn't be discouraged if some tool doesn't work for you in a certain way, because I believe that it can be adapted to you to work for you. And this is something that I had to figure out for myself, and it took me years of trying this thing and then another thing. And it was, I took something from one program, something from another program, and it was building up. But again, I would reiterate that 40%, literally, I would put down to boundaries and being able and learning how to say no, and what it means to be your own person and have healthy relationships and dynamic with other people.
I like that you brought up about how you kind of had to listen to your gut and see from the different programs what made sense for you. And it sounds like it was taking a bit from here, a bit from there. And a lot of people I've interviewed have said similar things. And I did a video recently summarizing some of the reasons why brain training doesn't work for some people, from what I've taken from recovery interviews and talking to experts. I can link it here if you haven't seen it. And that was one of the things, because people find a program and they try and rigidly do what's in that program, but it's not exactly a good fit for them. But we think, okay, I have to either do this program or that program. But quite a few people kind of have taken bits of pieces, or they've taken a program and adapted it slightly. So I think that's a really important point that you made. You've mentioned boundaries, a big part, understanding your nervous system, working with trauma, using some different brain training programs. Was there anything else in your puzzle of recovery that helped you get to where you are now?
I would just like to say that overarching over all of this has been my faith in God. And it was the biggest part of my recovery. And again, that's why this is something I include as a free teaching to anyone who wants to work with me. It's a free session where I talk about the spiritual side of things, because we talk a lot about the body in the main doctors talk about the body. More alternative teachers and coaches, they talk about the mind and the body together. But I think a very big part is missing from all of this, and it is our souls, because we all have a soul, and it also needs to be addressed and needs to be healed.
Well, thank you Santa, for sharing all of that. This is hugely helpful. I'm sure people will appreciate it. Another thing that people tell me that they appreciate hearing, in addition to what worked, the things that you tried, because I'm sure there are things that you tried that didn't work. So is there any of that you can share with us?
Probably like most people, I went to all the specialists I could think of. I have done all the tests, and that was a big waste of my time, my energy, my money. But of course, in the beginning, when you don't know what it is, I recommend everyone, does these tests to find out what exactly it is that you have, to exclude everything, firstly. But that didn't help me at all. Then I have tried, I think about 2 years ago, there was a big sort of like popular thing that was going around in this community, which is the antivirals. And, many people have been trying them. And sadly, I have tried them as well. And it didn't do anything for me because at that time, it was sort of like my last hope. I wasn't taking any drugs, anything, or I didn't want to put any of this toxic stuff into my body. But I was just unable to talk, unable to move, unable to do anything to open the blinds on my window. And I was just so desperate. And I thought, okay, as one last try, I will try these antivirals. And I just would discourage anyone who's listening to this to try it, because the root cause is not any virus or bacteria or anything else. That's just the last drop in a big ocean of problems. I have also tried taking a low dose naltrexone. I think some people might have heard of that as well. And again, it's just like a plaster we try to put on ourselves when we just don't know about the mind and body healing that is out there, or that, we just want something to fix us without looking deep into what is the actual root cause of this. And I've tried that. It didn't help me. And I had some osteopathy sessions done. And while it didn't help me, the brief sort of like massage type movement, in a way, somatic work, really was probably the thing that from all the other things that didn't help me, even though it didn't, it brought me some relief. And the person who did it, they also talked about, mindfulness while they were doing all of that. And that helped me.
And you've talked as well about how there isn't like a one size fits all approach to recovery. So what are some of the insights or things that you've seen that might be helpful for people watching to understand how to navigate recovery when it doesn't always look the same?
As I've mentioned, I have taken many different courses. I have been in different group coach settings with other people, one-on-one coaching programs where I had direct support from the course creator or program creator, programs where I didn't have any support, direct support with them. And so I have spoken to many people who were on these different courses and programs with me. And now I speak to people as my clients and also just my followers on Instagram, to whom, I DM them, I chat with them. And what I have found is that what one person might find helpful at that one time will not be helpful to another person in the exact same time. So even if you are, for example, doing the same program, you are coming from different places, you are in different stages of your recovery. Someone who is severe shouldn't be doing the same things or using the same tools that a person who's moderate or sort of like mild right now. People who have different circumstances. So we talked about, if you have children, the way you approach this and the tools that you use, how you use them, at what times, and in what way will be different to a person who doesn't have children. And for example, if I am coming into a program or something where I had previously worked on my boundaries and I have considerably healed my traumas, it is then appropriate for me to go into brain retraining, somatic work, and it will help me a lot because I have already addressed the main root causes of my nervous system dysregulation, and I have healed a lot of that. But for someone who might be coming in together with me in the same program, and they might even be doing better than me physically, they might be able to do more. But because they hadn't yet healed their traumas, they hadn't even looked into that, they hadn't looked into boundaries, and they go into, okay, well, now I'm going to use the tools of brain training and somatic work, trying to change my patterns of character on all these things. This wouldn't be as helpful to them as it would be to me because I had previously already done these other steps. Because I see that every person that I even speak to, they're at a different stage of their recovery, not just physically, but also emotionally, psychologically. And so this is why when people come to me and they, ask me about specific tools to give to them, I can give some general advice, but it's very hard for me to, without knowing their whole story, to recommend something that will help them straight away. And that wouldn't be right of me to do, because I need to understand, what they have done previously, what they're doing now. Because this work, mind body work, is so fluid, is so nuanced. I think, it's very important that each person, like I have done myself, looks into all the different root causes, they address them, and they find the right order of addressing these things as well. So I hope this helps.
Yes, absolutely. And if people wanted to know more about the kind of support that you provide for people who are recovering from chronic illness, can you tell us, what does that look like?
Yeah, so in my own journey, I have found, many things helpful, but one of the most helpful things to me personally, apart from, as I said, 40% it was boundaries, but apart from that, all the different tools were, of course, helpful. But the combination of that and coaching was just like, boom, fantastic. Okay, that was that. Because I found it very hard to navigate all of this on my own. And once I had some coaching in a group setting and also one-on-one, I did some of that. This is what gave me that big push in my progress, in my healing recovery journey. And so by starting my Instagram page, I thought that, well, I will try to provide people what I have found myself useful the most, and what I have found other people suffering from condition lacked and really needed. Because even when we have been doing the same things, we have learned the same things. For example, as I said previously, I found something helpful, but they didn't, because they were at a different stage. They, might not have addressed something previously that they should have before getting into brain training, for example, or somatic work. And this is why I think that the best way to go on in this is to create a completely unique approach to each individual. And I have to say, it takes a lot of time and effort on my part, but this is what I feel helps people the most, where I provide a completely bespoke program to each individual that I work one-on-one with. Many people receive sort of like a general advice in each coach session or coaching program, where it would apply to many, many people. But I feel that the best way to go is to find out from that person where they're at, what exactly they need, how I can help them. And then I tailor that to them specifically, and I provide that program to them one-on-one, because that's the best setting in which coaching can help. But also now I am planning to start doing group coaching, and this is something where, again, I will not be adding different people from different stages of recovery with different needs into one container, because I don't think that's helpful. I will be finding out specifically what their needs are, what stages they're at, and separating them into specific groups, and then doing the group coaching. Because for some people, they find it just more helpful to be around others who understand them, to have that support, and they would rather do that than do one-on-one. So this is something I'm planning to start doing soon as well.
This is amazing, Santa. I'm so excited that you're out here doing this, that you've had such success and gotten past this hellish journey that you are on. We've got millions of people around the world that are still facing this. So I'm really happy that you are taking all of this that you've learned and just, helping other people to apply that to their own recovery journey. And for those of you watching, I really encourage you to expand the video description. Everything you need to follow Santa and learn more and connect with her will be there. She's doing incredible work. So it's really just amazing. Very exciting. And also for people watching, I know this can be a lot to take in, and there's a lot of recovery interviews. So I've started in my email newsletters that I send out summarizing all of this. So if you can't catch all the recovery interviews, I summarize from each one, what worked, what didn't work, and what didn't work and what the key resources were for people. So if you'd like to sign up, if you haven't already, that is also in the video description. So thank you, Santa, so much for doing this today. This has been so insightful and so incredibly helpful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much again for having me here. I'm just honored to be one of your guests. This has been my dream, and I'm so happy to just be, another recovery story. And I just want to encourage everyone that you can be me, you can be us. We have recovered. It is possible, and just please don't lose hope. This is our main message on this channel, on my channel. All of us. That's what we wish for you, and please just carry on hoping and healing.
It is an honor to be able to help share your story. It is a dream for me as well. It's just feels like such a gift to be able to be a part and be connected with our whole community here and help get these stories out to people. And also, I'm going to link on the screen here another video that I'm thinking of that covers a lot of the same topics that Santa's been talking about. So if this is something that resonates, some further watching that I think will be helpful for you. So thank you again, Santa. Thank you to those of you watching. As always, whatever you're facing, please hang in there. Sending big hugs to you. You know you have totally got this. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I hope to see you in the next one.